Good morning. So I'm Justin Hendrix. I'm executive director of a thing called NYC Media Lab. My panelists are going to come and join me here on the stage. Very pleased to be here. NYC Media Lab is a consortium of universities in New York that includes CUNY and NYU and Columbia and the SVA and Parsons and the Pratt Institute, and then a bunch of big media and communications companies. So very pleased to be here today to focus in on local and some of the questions that we're going to get into in this panel as it's set up are really around the economics of local and local media. So hopefully we've got a very short time for the conversation. We're going to try to leave some time at the end for your questions. But I'm taking moderator's prerogative and just inform you of one important thing to know about this venue, which is that you can actually see Jay-Z and Beyonce's apartment from here. So if you know where to look, which I think the organizers of the event do, you'll be able to look down on their terrace and actually see the golden fence that they have on the terrace, which is something to see. So that's something to look forward to at lunchtime. I'm going to go right into introducing our panel, and I'm going to do the normal thing of letting them essentially say a little bit about their business and what they're working on at the moment. And then we're going to get into a bit of a discussion. So to my immediate right here is Jim Brady, who is the CEO of Billy Penn. So Jim, tell us a little bit about Billy Penn.
Well, Billy Penn turned 2 years old this past weekend. We have a sister site now called The Incline in Pittsburgh. But the concept of launching these sites 2 years ago was if you were starting a local site from scratch that was aimed at a 40 and under set, how would you structure it? And we decided from the beginning that the path to success was loyalty. And so we decided that the primary business model would be events because we have read all the research, a lot of others have read that if you're looking for a younger audience, that audience tends to value experiences over possessions. So we decided our business model would be experiences. So we did 85% of our revenue in 2015 in events, and it'll probably be about 65% this year. Even though the number will be higher, we just have more traffic and more ad revenue. But it's been, for us, a godsend because it's taken the pressure off of us to get the traffic to some unsustainable number in a short period of time.
And you're now in 2 markets.
We're now in 2 markets, launched in Pittsburgh last month.
Awesome. Okay. And then immediately to your right, Warren St. John, who's the CEO of the latest formulation of Patch. So tell us where you've got to in this adventure for the last year.
Sure. Thanks so much. The first thing I would say is that Patch is very much back. We are a profitable company, an expanding company. We've opened in Austin, Portland, and Nashville this year. We're consistently doing 21 million to 23 million uniques a month. When we came into Patch the last month of the AOL ownership, audience was about 19 million. So we're leaner. We have a content model that's based on providing really useful, urgent information, a lot of notifications to our users. And we spent the last 2.5 years basically remodeling an airplane while it was in the air and have rebuilt the thing from the inside out. And it's an exciting time for us at Patch.
Okay, and so next to your right, we're going to speak with Peter Newton, who is at GateHouse Media. Peter, tell us about your business.
Sure, thanks, Justin. Hello. GateHouse Media is the largest owner of newspapers in the United States. We're a public company. The public holding company is actually New Media Investment Group. Traditional media business that has more than doubled in size inorganically. In the last 2 years, we've been acquiring other newspapers and more recently B2B publications where we see a lot of opportunity. And while we've been transforming that business, our legacy business, we're also have introduced Propel Business Services. That started with Propel Marketing. Actually, our CMO, Aman Devgan, is here in the audience. But more recently, we've expanded beyond Propel Marketing, which is digital marketing services for local businesses, to also include IT services and other services basically solving for the pain points or biggest pain points of small businesses in our markets.
So we've got 3 leaders of businesses that essentially represent 3 business model experiments in local with very different dynamics in each of those businesses. Maybe we can just do some key stats. So number of employees, number of markets, and what you can say about top-line revenue. I know it's different for each one of you, but.
We're at 18 employees now. Again, we're in 2 markets, and in terms of revenue, we're like mid-6 figures at this point. I mean, if the way we're structured, Billy Penn should probably turn the corner in first quarter of 2017. There was USA Today wrote a story about the company last week and said we're tantalizingly close to profitability for Billy Penn, and that is true. Obviously, we've invested money to launch Pittsburgh, so as a company, it's, if we're going to continue to roll out sites, which is the plan in different cities, you're always going to have a trailing expense glut. But we're looking at it on a market-by-market basis of trying to take any market we go into profitable within 12 to 18 months.
And Warren, can you tell us about Patch?
Oh, sure. So let's see. We just opened our 1,000th patch this week.
It's like a hyperactive Boy Scout.
And in Manhattan, Illinois. We opened in the other Manhattan over the summer, so we now have 12 Manhattan, New York City patches. And revenue is roughly 17 million or so, and we've been running at more or less break even as we expand, but we like to stay a little bit ahead of the game so we can keep moving forward.
And about 150 full-time?
About 120 full-time employees. We use a lot of contractors and freelancers as well, but most of our journalists are, we have 70 full-time staff reporters, our national editors, Polk Award winner from the Baltimore Sun. We've got Boston Globe, Des Moines Register, Chicago Sun-Times journalists working for Patch. All around the country, we have a very talented and high-energy staff.
Cool. And in the middle, I suppose, of 2 and 1,000 in terms of the number of markets served, but certainly the largest business on the panel. Tell us about GateHouse.
Sure. We are in, including both our newspapers and our B2B publications, over 400 markets in the U.S. Those are mostly small to mid-sized markets. Columbus, Ohio, I was telling these guys, is our largest, so about the 35th DMA, and then we get quite a bit smaller from there. We're a public company, so I'll tell you our revenues are about $1.2 billion a year. The growth, though, will come from those new businesses. So Propel Marketing that I mentioned right now is at an annualized revenue run rate of about $50 million. What we're looking to leverage there, a few of our other demographics, are the roughly 200,000 local business customers that we have with our traditional newspaper and B2B publications, and about 1,000 salespeople in those 400 plus markets.
So I asked the panel behind the curtain here, if they felt like the local was a big growth opportunity, enormous growth opportunity for their businesses. They were all optimistic, all felt like absolutely, but the tough thing is finding the money in those local markets, cracking it. In fact, somebody may have used a fracking metaphor. So how do you get through the shale or whatever the hell's in the ground that's kind of keeping you from the money? But I just wanted to get you all to comment on that a little bit. What you're seeing in your markets, what it sort of feels like in the market moment, how these local economies are performing. Who wants to take that one?
I'll go for it. Well, I have the fracking metaphor, so apologies for that. But what we were saying is that the promise of local has always been tapping into all of that SMB opportunity, and no one's totally cracked the code, at least at scale. But I think the one thing that I found that local has going for it, whether Billy Penn or the Tuscaloosa News or a local patch, is that audiences just really value it. They really like it. We know that if we can produce local content, the engagement will be very high. Our newsletter open rates are consistently at around 30%, and we get a third of our traffic from email, actually. So that's what we've got going for us. And when you convert a local reader and you give them something really relevant consistently, they will stick with you because it is valuable. It frequently changes their life. It may change the course of their commute, their view of their local school district, their view of their town. So that's the thing we've got going for us. And that deep relationship which is so the opposite of the viral internet where people are bouncing in and out and don't really care about the frame. That's the thing that gives us, I think, we feel at Patch, the time to figure things out. It gives us the space because we really are in a relationship with our users. If we don't show up and take pictures of the prom in a certain town, we will get hurt letters from people. You know, you hurt our feelings. You didn't do the prom photos this year. And that's a completely different type of space for digital media than I think a lot of the publishers who get a lot of the attention.
And Peter, you're very much focused on services for small businesses now as well. Can you talk a little bit about your move in that direction?
Sure, and generally, I think what we're seeing is while advertising is still very important to us, and we've got large and actually really dominant local audiences and highly engaged around our content, we are shifting more to marketing and marketing services in terms of what we provide for local businesses. A quick example of that, and very important for us, is earlier this year, Propel Marketing acquired ThriveHive, which is a guided marketing platform for VSBs, or very small businesses. Sold at a subscription, very low, affordable price, enables a small business, or really guides them, even if they don't have a lot of digital marketing experience, providing them advice on things like paid search or social media or other aspects of growing their business. So we're really excited about that. And extending as well into IT services, which came as a result of us surveying local businesses, listening to them, and beyond digital marketing, IT services and helping their business or move their business to the cloud was a big need that came out. So it's a really nice kind of ancillary business to Propel Marketing and feeds off of that.
And at Billy Penn, you sort of mentioned backstage that the thought was really to start without relying on advertising, without even making that part of the plan. What are you doing?
It is definitely
instead?
part of the plan. We have native and display on the site, but what we didn't want to do is build the business only on that, because you're not going to have traffic coming out of the gate. You're a new entity in town. You don't have a lot of marketing money. So if you're going to build your entire business on that, you're going to have one staffer for 3 years. So what we decided, the way I look at it is, I might have been able to build a business off people who read us, but I can definitely build a business off of people who love us. And so we decided we were going to try to create a brand people felt passionate about by getting 150 of our readers to show up at events, get to know each other, and then be able to kind of piggyback off of that. And when we turned one, we had our 1-year anniversary party at a high-end bowling alley in South Philly, kind of typical style for us. But I just got up there and said as a fact, like, hey, Billy Penn turned 1 year old today, and like people jumped up and cheered. And I worked 15 years at the Washington Post, and God knows pretty much everybody respects the Washington Post, but that roar you wouldn't really see at that. You'd get a very polite, respectful clap. But here, like, they kind of got up and roared, and we thought, and I said, we can do something with that when people like your brand that much. They don't like everything we do, but they generally have a real strong feeling for us.
So each of you are running your own experiments, and you're all using technology in different ways to inform those experiments. Let's talk a little bit about that, how sort of technology fits into the mix. I mean, you mentioned the ThriveHive acquisition, patches, taking advantage of some of the scale opportunity of the web. You mentioned, beginning to, or backstage we talked a little bit about using some listening services. Let's talk about some of those things, some of the tech tools that you're using to make these business models work. Warren.
Well, so I think Patch is probably only around because of the technological innovations that we've been able to make in-house. Initially, it was just programmatic. Building a programmatic stack allowed us to keep our cost of sale low, to keep ads flowing. More recently, all of our innovation on our dev queue these days is around turning Patch into a platform to realize its potential as a network with direct-to-platform spending, promoted events, job listings, native ads, DIY. But we also have built our content model around technological tools that have allowed us to be in more than one place at a time, which we had to be. We got a lot smaller. I think at the peak, when AOL owned Patch, they had 1,000 journalists. We have closer to 100. So So we've got to be a lot of places at once. And fortunately for us, there are technological tools that actually AOL didn't have access to because they didn't exist that help us do that.
And can you talk about some of those specifically?
Do I have to?
Maybe too much
rather
secret
not,
sauce?
but they're not.
Okay.
I just think there are lots of tools out there, whether NewsWhip or CrowdTangle or Data Miner or Geophedia or Banjo that one could use. I think we're probably using some of them very differently than the New York Times might use them, kind of pointing the antenna in a different direction, as it were. But all of those things, all those innovations have helped us. They helped us over the chasm when we came into Patch initially, and the company was losing a fortune. We scaled way back. We had to get off the AOL platform in, I think, 4 months, and took the thing down to about 9 million uniques before we were able to start building and putting the pieces back together. And that's been a 2-year process. It's really involved kind of rebuilding the whole thing.
And at Billy Penn, are you taking advantage of those same types of tools?
Yeah, Banjo, CrowdTangle, Parsley. We put our money on technology as things that help us see what's going on outside, not things that we put on the site. We keep the site really, really light. One of our core theory, we designed and built the site for mobile, so that if you load it, it loads in a heartbeat. It's, we don't load it up with anything that slows the site down. We don't do, unnecessary slideshows or paginate stories. So we kind of just kept it really simple on the actual user-facing end, and on the back end, that's where we spent our money so we could better see what was going on in different parts of Philly with our mighty newsroom of 7.
So in addition to the suite of technologies you're now offering to small businesses, are there technologies that are powering your business model, you think?
Yeah, I'll mention a couple in different aspects of our business. Certainly one that's been most impactful for us is Tout, which is a video creation platform that our reporters, GateHouse reporters, use across all those markets. So we're now creating over 2,000 original videos each week and learning over time, our reporters and our centralized Center for News and Design in Austin about what types of content and how it's presented in terms of what drives the most engagement. We're also using, and this is certainly not new technology, but new for us, Salesforce.com for our consumer marketing CRM on the legacy business side. So we're both driving print and digital subscriptions, as well as nurturing customer and consumer relationships with things like e-newsletters and other forms of engagement to really improve retention. And on the business services side, one of the places we've invested in developing our own technology is at Propel Marketing. We've built our own proprietary customer analytics dashboard. So all of the work that we do, the results of all that work, including other online marketing services that a business may be using, are tied into one easy to understand dashboard that now has its own mobile app, courtesy of Aman and his team, that's been highly successful in driving engagement for those local business customers.
So one of the things that I know you're all working on is keeping that the economics of your business low enough that you can take advantage of this local media opportunity. What sorts of technologies do you imagine you'll be applying in the next year to 2 years to do that, or what tricks do you have up your sleeve, things that you're working on in the pipeline that will help you do that?
We just moved our entire tech setup to AWS, and that saved us a bunch of money. So I think we're always looking to save money. I always joke that one of our business tenets is just low overhead. It's like we're just trying to keep the cost really, really low. We spend 85% of our money on people, and want to keep it that way. We have a custom WordPress back end that we use for all the sites, like with Warren and Patch. They're all the same. We have changed the color scheme and the logos, but outside of that, the back end is, we're going to keep it that way. Nobody gets a special feature. That's sort of the death in a lot of these journalism entities of everybody saying, yeah, I know I like 90% of what you gave me in that platform, but I just need 2 of my own features, and that's what starts to kill your scale. So we're just going to try to be smart about what we spend on. There's no brilliant plan there for us.
I think so. One of the things that we've been doing pretty aggressively is, so we don't have a marketing department at Patch. We're too cheap. So we rely on our users to spread our content around and do that for us. So we've really benefited from integrating with, we're 100% Facebook Instant Articles, Google AMP, 1,000 Apple News channels. We just are rolling out now an integration with Amazon and the Alexa so that you can speak to Jeff Bezos's magic coffee can and get your patch headlines from your Echo. So audience development is heavily entwined with technology, and I think probably the next phase for us is going to be going out and partnering with other media companies who want to use our platform to drive traffic back to their sites and expand their reach if they feel like they maybe have tapped out in these other areas.
I think one of the biggest investments we'll be making, and we're just at the beginning of this, is in our building a singular consumer data warehouse, and then building either new products or applications or even businesses off of that accumulated data and knowledge that we have. Today we've got all of our data kind of living in disparate places, but we've got enormous numbers. We've got over 40 million uniques, some great first-party data from our websites. We've got a promotions platform that has over 2 million people in that database, from things like voting on Best of Peoria, or other contests that we've run over the last several months. We have subscriber data, a number of other places as well. We're really rich in that, but really have not approached it strategically, so that's a big focus for us.
So I want to ask one last question, and then we're going to open it up to your questions in the audience. So if you get those ready, and maybe the microphone runners will get those ready. We've talked a little bit about the economics, talked a little bit about the technology, just a moment on the people. I assume that the people that thrive in these businesses are maybe different than the people that thrived in sort of traditional local media or news media businesses 10 or 20 years ago. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the way people are working in your companies and how that might be different today versus yesterday?
Sure. I mean, in Philadelphia, everybody sits around one big table in the co-working space we're in: sales, development, editorial. Some of our best event ideas have come from the newsroom. Some of our story ideas have come from the sales team. So I think the idea here is we want people who don't see limits on what it is that they're willing to do to help the company succeed outside of the obvious journalistic boundaries. But we have reporters working the front desks at events, checking people in. I mean, we're looking for people who understand that this is a battle where you've got to fight with a very small team, and that small team's got to not see limitations on what it is it's willing to do when it tries to make the company successful. And we do all company calls every Monday to go over where we are on revenue and traffic. So I think for being small is great because everybody can kind of see what's going on and everybody can be deputized to help.
It's all hands on deck.
All hands on deck all the time.
And Warren, you're spread out, those 120 odd employees?
Yeah, we're spread out all over the place. We've got about 45, 50 people here in HQ in Chelsea, but all of our editors are out in the field. Slack has actually been transformational for us because we have virtual newsrooms by team. We have a general newsroom for the whole organization, and that's been great because people who work at home in faraway places can get connected to something. I think one of the things I'm proudest of at Patch, frankly, is our culture. I know that's a word that gets tossed around a lot, almost to the point of being meaningless, but there's something about going through a turnaround where your future is in doubt and having to pull together and rely on each other that has really created something pretty special among our team. People stick around. It's kind of amazing. I have one editor here in New York who probably gets a job offer once a week. I've just asked her to stop telling me, but she always just wants me to know. I'm not going anywhere. I like it too much. I'm having too much fun. And that is really, that's how local's different. When I was at the New York Times, I would publish a front page story and it might get emailed all around the world and I wouldn't really know who was reading it. And in local, when our reporters write about anything from a lost dog to a school board vote, they're looking in the eye of the people who are affected by that story, and it just feels very real.
Peter, in those 400 markets, are people working differently?
So one of the things that's really helped us foster much more of a culture of innovation is our Center for News and Design in Austin. So we're page designing and copy editing all of our newspapers and all of our newspaper websites there, so done centrally. So not only is that more efficient, although sometimes it's difficult taking jobs that had been done locally and centralizing them. It really has brought so many more new tools like Tout or Parsley or other things that those local editors and reporters can use that otherwise they may not have had access to, and receive the training and development and coaching that they otherwise might not have had. One of the other things that we've done as well is the new businesses that we have, like Propel Marketing, is set those up entirely separately, right? They're not done within the newspaper business. They have their own culture, and it really is an amazing place to work.
So don't squash the new companies. Right. Yeah. Okay, a couple questions from the audience really quickly. Who's got a hand? Let's see. Anybody? People coming back from coffee a little slow. One back there in the back. Okay, so messaging, Facebook Messenger, chatbots, AI, all that stuff, personalized experiments, recommendations, etc. Anybody doing that stuff?
No, we want to be, but to be honest, at this point, we just haven't gotten to it yet with the tiny staff, but it's something we're looking at actually right now. We just did a call about it last week.
Okay.
Calls don't mean much.
Well, it's a first step, right? Anybody else? Messaging apps?
We're not, but we are in the process of opening up the platform for users to. We have user-generated content on Patch. It sort of sits on one side of a wall, but we're in Q1 launching a super simplified version of that, something that is a kind of a version of almost like a tweet, a simple box where you can enter whatever it is to speak to your community. And Nextdoor, I think, has done an amazing job of fostering community conversation at scale, and that's something we haven't done. And I think it's an opportunity. It's also an absence on Patch, frankly.
Peter, any bots?
Yeah, and likewise, we're not doing anything really today, at least that I'm aware of, but I do know, again, out of that Center for News and Design, there are a number of things that we're looking at for the first quarter of 2017.
The bots are coming. Okay.
Should just correct, Will. We have a public Slack channel that we open up at times for breaking news, and when we're trying to solicit feedback from the audience on, but that's about it.
Okay. Another question from the audience. Have I got another one out there? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, how are you?
So I have a question for you guys with journalism. Do you feel that local journalists feel the heavy burden in carrying on journalistic integrity? Just because we're in the world of brand content, and just content has just changed so much in the digital landscape. Thank you.
I just read a number that said there are now only 30,000 journalists in America, professional journalists for 320 million people. Stresses on those journalists to maintain the role of the fourth estate. Does anybody wrestle with that in their business?
Oh, sure. I mean, that's why, I don't think any of us, I'm a journalist by training, even though I'm now, I guess, technically a suit. But I mean, I don't think any of us get into this for the money. I think, but we're trying to figure out how to sustain local journalism. That cannot happen unless you figure out the money. So I think that's why my focus has moved to the economic side of things. But I do think they feel that burden very strongly, almost as strongly as the citizenry feels the lack of it in some communities now. So yeah, I think there's no question they feel it. Ironically, a lot of the reporters we've hired for Billy Penn say they're working less hard now than they were before, which is something you probably should never tell your boss as a general rule. But I think it's because they can focus on doing one or two good stories, a day, and before they were kind of cranking out 4 or 5 things a day and feeling like pretty beaten down about the quality and the quantity they were producing. So we're happy about that.
Anybody else on this question?
Yeah, I think it's, I think quality journalism, it is really at the heart of what we do and who we are. So we're very proud of the fact that we won a Pulitzer Prize in our Sarasota newspaper this year. And taking that a step further, the editor there, Bill Church, just a few weeks ago was named our new head SVP of news across all of GateHouse. And guy's an amazing talent who really does, I think, a great job of balancing things like deep investigative journalism and how you do that well in local markets with audience engagement, and is really pretty amazing at reaching into those local markets and understanding what it is people want to know about and learn.
Warren, the last word.
So we have a sort of a traditional church and state situation between newsroom and sales. Our readers insist on that, and I can't imagine it really being any other way. We actually had a branded post that went out on one of our Facebook pages last week, and the sponsored label in the deck didn't show up in the post, and there were 40 comments telling us how horrible we were. So we jumped in and said it's our bad, we messed up. So that's the expectation that we have to meet. That said, I do think that all of our team is engaging and wrestling with the larger problems of the business model of media, and we think that we know that our editors on the ground are going to have valuable ideas about ways that we can engage with our audiences, expand our audience that we in HQ won't have access to. So I think that's one thing that it's very different from me. When I was at the Times, all of the business decisions were sort of between Arthur Sulzberger's office and the union, and the journalists just went about their business. I think we've got a much more robust conversation going on about how we make the economics of digital publishing work.
So I think everybody here wants to capitalize the search for facts in any size market. That's right. So I want to thank our panelists. It was a short conversation, but I think a useful one. So Peter, Warren, Jim, thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.